Most rugged phones make one simple promise: they won't break. The problem is, living with them usually does. They're huge, they're slow, and let's be honest, most of them look like you borrowed a military radio from 2008. But this one might finally have figured something out. So let's crack it open. Straight away you get the phone, a USB-C cable, a 33 watts charger, which is becoming strangely generous these days, and hidden underneath the paperwork, you know, that carefully folded stack of instruction absolutely nobody reads. First impressions, it definitely looks rugged, but not ridiculously rugged. On one side you've got the fingerprint sensor built into the power button along with the volume controls. The other side houses the custom shortcut key. Around the back, a large camera module and a pretty bright camping light that I'll come back to later. So far, it's making a much better first impression than most rugged phones. The first thing that absolutely surprised me wasn't the battery, it was the size. Yes, it's still bigger than a normal phone. There's no getting around that, but compared to most rugged phones, it's very slim. You don't constantly feel like you're carrying a house brick around all day, and honestly, that's a bigger deal than it sounds, because that's normally where rugged phones lose. Then there's the battery. 7,000 mAh, which basically means you stop thinking about charging. 2, 3 or even 4 days, depends on the use, easy. Whether you're working long shifts, camping, hiking or just forget where you left your charger, this thing just keeps going. And that's really the philosophy of the whole phone. Not exciting, just dependable. Now this is where the compromises begin. The display is big. It scrolls smoothly thanks to the 120 Hz refresh rate, but it's only 720 pixels, so no, text isn't razor sharp. If you're coming from a modern OLED flagship, you'll notice it immediately. For messages, maps, YouTube and work apps, it's perfectly usable. For binge watching films, there are much better screens. Performance follows exactly the same pattern. The Unisoc T620 isn't fast. Let's not pretend otherwise. Apps open, Android 16 runs perfectly fine. Calls are very loud. Banking apps, navigation and daily tasks all work without drama, but this isn't a gaming phone. I tried Asphalt Legends and yes, it's playable, if your definition of playable includes lowering every graphic settings and accepting that smooth gameplay isn't happening today. Video recording is another reminder of where the budget went. You can shoot up to 1080p and the electronic stabilization is available, but it's asking quite a lot from the processor. I found that leaving stabilization on could cause noticeable frame drop, so I would generally recommend sticking with standard 30 FPS recording instead. On the camera, pretty much what you would expect for the money. The 64 megapixel main camera is absolutely fine in daylight. Photos have enough detail for documenting work, taking reference shots or grabbing something for social media. Once the light disappears though, so does most of the magic. Low light performance is average at best. No optical stabilization, no clever computational photography. Just a very honest budget camera. And honestly, I would rather a phone be honest than pretend it's something it isn't. Now let's be fair, this isn't a great smartphone. It's a great rugged phone for around £100. That's the difference. The display is low resolution, the processor is slow, gaming isn't that much enjoyable, charging isn't particularly quick considering the battery size, and there's no 5G. And if you're upgrading from a flagship, this is going to feel like several years backwards. That's simply reality. But there's the thing, I don't actually think this phone is competing with flagship phones. It's competing with smart screens, with bulky protective cases, with people who spend hundreds replacing broken phones every year. This is the phone you throw into a tool bag, take camping, use on a construction site, or keep as a second device that you simply don't have to worry about. There's even a dedicated camping light on the back. I thought it was a gimmick until I actually used it. Turns out having an incredibly bright light that's always with you is very useful. And yes, I even hit it with a hammer. Because if a rugged phone can't survive that, what's the point? Thankfully it passed. Far better than my nerves did. I actually think phones like this highlight something bigger. For years we've been obsessed with making phones thinner, shinier and more expensive. Then we immediately wrap them in the thickest case we can find. It's a strange cycle. The KingKong ES5 takes the opposite approach. It accepts that it's a tool first and everything else comes second. So here's my verdict. If you want flagship performance, this isn't your phone. If you want amazing cameras, definitely not your phone. But if you want something affordable, generally tough, with excellent battery life, loud calls, modern Android 16 and performance to get through the working day, this makes a surprising amount of sense. It doesn't try to be everything, it just tries to survive everything, and for the right person, that's exactly enough. This is the Cubot KingKong ES5, and unlike most rugged phones, it isn't trying to be an indestructible brick that also happens to make phone calls. It's trying to be a normal smartphone that just survives far more abuse than a normal smartphone ever could. If you work on a building site, spend weekends outdoors, or simply have an unfortunate habit of introducing your phone to concrete, that's actually a very interesting idea, especially when it costs around £100. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments.
Family Pop TV.